Okay, so one of the common problems that a lot of people have with functions like VLOOKUP is that often you have inconsistent text that you want to match together. So, for example, if you look here, I have this worksheet that has companies and their domains. And then I also have this other worksheet that also has companies and their market value and the ticker. So if you look here, this one, for example, says Walmart Stores Inc. And if I go back to domains, here it just says Walmart Stores without the Inc. part. So I also have this third one. See, this one also has companies and basically the location. So you see how this one just says Walmart. It doesn't say with a dash Walmart Stores. And it also doesn't say the Inc. thing that was happening here. So that's the challenge. We're trying to pull some data together, but these company names aren't exactly typed the same way. So when you're trying to approach something like this, the first important part is to have low expectations. Because if you have high expectations, you're most likely going to be disappointed. But I'm going to show you how we can use Power Query to make this process a lot easier compared to doing this manually. What's going to happen, every tool you use to help you out with this is going to require some manual entry if you need 100% correct results. But for now, let's just go ahead and convert these three things to actual Excel tables. So I'm going to click in this data set, go under Insert, make a table out of it, and it has headers. I'm going to press OK. Then I'm going to go to this one, repeat the same thing. And finally, for locations as well. This list don't exactly match, so it's not exactly the same companies. See, there's like 1,000 companies in this list. And if I go here, there is about 2,000 in this list. And then if I go to location, there is about 500 in this. So it's not like it's exactly the same list mistyped in some different ways. I guess let me start with this and try to match the company market value or the stock ticker and add to this locations worksheet. So I'm going to go here first and go under data section. And under data section, I have this get and transform data section. And here I'm just going to do from table range to connect this to my Power Query right here. So here we are. So all I'm going to do is just rename this table to something more appropriate. And just load it back, close and load to. And I'm only going to create a connection. I'm going to do the same for the other two. So I'm going to take this one from table range. If you can't see it here, you can always go under get data from other sources from table range. That will get you there. For me, it's right here. I'm just going to keep doing this. So again, close and load to, and make a connection. All right, so once these connections are created, I wanted to start with these locations and try to bring over matching stocks. So I'm going to go here, location. See, this location shows up here. Right click, I'm going to do merge. And here we have that location selected. I'm going to go ahead and select that second one. And I'm going to show what is the column we're trying to match together. So we have this one, that's the companies, and we have this name, which are the company names in this other table. So this would work like this if they were exactly the same in both columns. So we could match them up, but they don't. So what we need to do, we need to use this fuzzy matching to do this. And you see it says 307 of 500, it was able to match right now. So if I go to this fuzzy matching options, see there is this option. Let me drag this up. Similarity. So by default, this is going to be set to 80%. So it finds if it's 80% similar, I'm going to consider them as a match. You can go here and change that. So if you're trying to do a percentage, you don't want to type 80%. You want to do something like 0.8. That would be the default. So if I don't do anything, that should give me the 0.8. I could go here and change this to like 0.7 and see now it updated to 342 matches. If I go to 0.8, that goes to 307. So less matches. Now, if you do 1, that just means it has to match exactly, which in this list, apparently there are only 8 companies that are typed exactly the same way. So the lower you go, the more likely it is to match. It's also more likely to match inappropriately. So let's just go with the default 0.8 and see what happens, and then we can come back and change this. So we're going to ignore case, so we don't want this to be case sensitive. And then how many matches do you want? So if it finds there are 2 that are kind of close together, do we need to return both, or do we need to just do the first match? So for right now, I'm just going to do 1 to only get 1 match per company. I'm going to leave it at that so far, press OK, so we can see what actually happened. So as I do this, see that first table shows up with all the columns for the location. Now the second table is here, it's just not opened up yet. So I'm going to click on this icon and open all the columns. So I just wanted the ticker, but I'm also going to make sure I put the name for the company so I can cross-check to see if it did a correct thing. Now, if you wanted market value, you would check that too. But for me, I don't care about it. I'm just going to press OK. And it's going to bring those over. See? For me to make this easier to check, I'm just going to move this company name column from that second table next to this company name from the first table so we can compare. So as you can see, Walmart Stores Inc. So it did figure out it's the same thing. It's good. This is good. Now this is probably not correct. And these are the challenges you're going to have because it's not going to be able to tell the difference between these minor differences that you can see here. So this one is good. So some of them are good. As you can see, there are going to be some that are not good. See, there is Verizon. It didn't match anything, apparently. There are a lot of them that didn't match. So Costco, see, it went with this, which is not accurate. So as I was saying, you have to have realistic expectations how much of this is actually going to work out and how much is not going to. So I want to see if I can match more by just lowering that percentage. So I'm going to go back to see this source. I'm going to go ahead and click on the little gear icon next to it. And that should get me back to my first screen so I can play around with these options. So I'm going to change the similarity to 0.7, like 70%, and press OK and see what my results look like with these changes. So again, OK. I'm going to leave the rest of the steps the same. Now, it's still zoomed in on that first step because that's what I'm clicked on. I'm just going to click on the last step again to just show me the results after the transfer. So now let's take a look to see if we have more matching companies. So I think Apple wasn't matching before. Now it seems to match it after this change. CVS Health, CVS, I'm not even sure if that's the same company, but seems like it could be. See, Verizon, it wasn't matching before, now it does. So now I have more matches, but it's also likely that I have more inaccurate matches. So what I want to do now, remember how I chose to do just 1 match per company? So I want to go back and change it to more than 1 match. So I'm going to go to the source again and change to this fuzzy matching options. Let's scroll down and change it to maximum number 3. Let's see what happens now. So again, I'm going to go to the last step. And now if you look here, see we have 3 different possibilities it found for Costco. And originally it was just showing us this one. Now because I did 3, it's also picking up the actual match for Costco. But now it's duplicating the line because there are more matches. Now then we have this one also, which is not accurate. So as you can see, now this adds up some of the real matches too, but it's also going to add some of the matches that are not actually a match. So incorrect matches now show up as well. So if with your data, for whatever magic reason, if you just go under source and play around with this threshold and the number of matches with one, you get all the results as you should and everything is fine, then at this point you should be good to go. So if this whole thing worked, all you had to do at this point, just close and load and close and load, and that should just load all results back to Excel. So let me just do that so you can see what that would look like. Now remember, this is still an active connection to the rest. So if you're planning to come in here because there are some incorrect matches and modify this thing from what it is, then you need to make sure you unlink this from the source, because you can come in here and spend some time to delete some of these incorrect matches. But then you may just refresh this and all of a sudden it's just gonna remove everything you just did and reload with those results again. So at this point, if I want this to be disconnected from this others, I just do this unlink. And now this should be separate. So it's no longer connected to our other tabs and it's not gonna reload and do anything with this. Now, because of these challenges you're going to have, because you're likely not going to find all the matches the way you need, the best approach for this would probably be to create some sort of intermediary table first that you could then use to actually put this whole thing together. So let's try to create that table that's going to be in the middle. So I'm going to delete this. And I'm also going to delete this merged thing. That's a connection. We don't need it anymore. So what I'm going to do, again, I'm going to start with the same thing. I'm going to right click on this location. I'm going to go to merge. And here I'm going to select my second data table and select a column that needs to go together. And then we'll do our fuzzy match. Open this. Let's go 0.6. Number of matches, 1 maximum. It says 379 matches if I go 60%. If I go 50%, it goes 409 matches. So I'm not really sure how many of these companies actually match, but 50 would probably be too loose in a lot of cases. I am going to go with 70%, and I am going to choose more than one match here. So I'll do, let's say 3. I'll just go ahead and press OK. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to start by getting rid of all these other columns. I do want this table to stay in here, so I'm going to keep that. I'm going to go ahead and select all of this and remove those columns. And here I'm going to open this thing up and only select the name. So for whatever reason, it gives me like 2 of these, but let's just try to just run duplicate removal on both columns together like this. You want to make sure both are selected, because otherwise you would be just looking at one column for duplicates. I'm going to right click and do remove duplicates. Let's see if that removes some of those. It does. So the rest we have to kind of go through and fix. So we're not going to be fixing them here in this connection. What we're going to do, we're just going to load this back in Excel. But before we do that, let's just give it a better name. Go to close and load, close and load. I'm going to go ahead and unlink this right away because I need to do some manual work in this one. So at this point, what you would have to do once you unlink it, just go through this entire thing and check the results. If you want 100% accuracy, you're going to have to do this manually, whether you like it or not. So for the ones that there are no matches, you would have to go and see if you can actually find a match. So for example, this Phillips, I'm going to go here and see if it's showing up in tickers. So I'm not sure. I don't think those are actually the same company. Maybe it's not actually in there. Even for me, manually reviewing this, I'm having problems figuring out if it's right or wrong without doing some research now and searching in Google and stuff like that. But anyways, we have to do some of these manual checks and see what's going on. That seems to be right, like Ford. Let's go check if it's there. This is the credit company. I think that's actually their ticker, but I didn't know it was called like credit company. So assuming now you decide this should be the right company name, what you would do, you would just copy this, go to that, what I call sheet 2, and just provide what the matching value should be in the other table. And you basically have to go through this process and take care of all of these cases. So if you see like there are 3 of these Costco's, this is the one that's correct, then you want to go ahead and delete the ones that are not correct. And this will be a process, right? It will take a little bit. And again, like I said, you should have realistic expectations, especially if you're after 100% accurate results. So let me also go check this one too. I'm not going to go through every single one of this. I'm just trying to show you the workflow. So that, surprisingly, it wasn't able to find. Maybe if I did a little looser from 70%, it would probably find this one. Maybe 60% would be a better way to start this than what I have. So this one, Microsoft is right. These other 2 aren't. So maybe I should have picked like max 2 now that I'm looking at this results instead of max 3, because usually if it's not the first one, it seems to be the second one. Once we have all of this and you did check all the results, the next step is going to be to actually now merge them together. Once you have this mapping table that you hopefully made using this fuzzy match and fixing it up, now we need to take now this new table that we did, because this is unlinked at this point, so it's like a new table, and link it back to Power Query so we can get this done. So I'm going to go back to this from table range. I should have probably deleted that connection so we don't have this many. See, now I have like 2 of these. It's hard to tell which one is which, but the ones with underscores is the new one. So this is that new one. I'm just going to close on load 2 and make a connection out of it. And maybe I'll just delete this one at this point, just to avoid any confusion. So this is that connection to this mapping table that I just did. And if necessary, you can later on come back and fix it up even more. So I can now take my locations and merge it. And now I'm not going to be using fuzzy match anymore. What I'm going to do, I'm going to take the location and I'm going to take that mapping table and just take the company and match with a company, because that column should be exactly right. So no more fuzzy match. I'm just going to leave it as is and press OK. Now from this, I need to expand this, and I just need the ticker name, basically the matching value from that other third table. So I'm going to go ahead and open that up. So now that should just bring over the matching value using that middle table we just did. And now to this, we need to merge that third table. So I'm going to go to this merge options here. And we have this thing that we just merged together. I am going to now merge that third table. And I can merge it using this column and that new mapping column we just made. And again, that's going to be left outer join. I'm going to press OK. And we simply just open this up and use the ticker. And if you wanted to have the name for checking, you could. But it should really match this one exactly, because that was a match we just did. So at this point, just to see the results, let me just move these columns. Let me just go check this, because it's the second time this is duplicating itself. So for now, I'm just going to load it back as a connection so I can go check this. See this line 29? Let's see if there's another one. See, there is another one apparently. So that's the reason it's basically showing up more than once in there. And you can see how here there is CVS, but there's also CHS and CBS, which all went under this. So again, that's probably because of our mapping table. I didn't go through the whole thing. But if I go and check that CHS and CBS, see, it's mapping to CVS Corporation. I just didn't go through this whole thing to correct everything. And that's why we have all those matches that we shouldn't have. But you can still use this to go back and fix it. So I can keep it like this and just close and load. And this time I'm going to close and load. Now, because it's a connection, now I need to load this back to my spreadsheet. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to roll over this. And here, see, there's this 3 little dots. I'm going to click on that. And there's load to as one of the options. And I'm going to load it to a table. And I'll load it on a new worksheet. So this will be the results. And as you can see, some of them are incorrect because, for example, the CHS was mapped to the CVS. So I'm going to go to my mapping table now and correct, for example, that one. So I'm just going to remove this so it just doesn't match to it. And now if I just go back to this and refresh it, which is this merge one, see, that one is gone. So the same way CBS in my mapping table is apparently incorrect. And I have like 3 of them. So I'm going to keep the correct one, remove incorrect ones. And again, just refresh the merge. See, now CVS goes with CVS. So I'm going to call this merged. So like I said, there is going to be some manual work involved if you want this to be 100% accurate. We have to go through and figure out how and why do we have this twice. And which one do you want to keep? Do you want to keep both? Do you want to just keep one? So you need to just address those. And at this point, once you made all these connections I just talked about, you just have to go back and fix the sources. So if I have something that's showing up twice, like this one, if you remember, then that was showing up twice in the source. And we need to fix this in the source. So I have 2 of this. I need to figure out how am I returning that ticker because there are 2. So maybe you want to return it twice the way it is. Or maybe you decided, I don't want this one. So you can go here in the source table and delete the first one. And then you can just refresh this. And you'll see that the duplicate is now gone because now we were specific about which one it should keep. And for the rest of this, at least on the first screen, I think this looks pretty good. But the point I'm trying to make here, again, there is going to be some manual work involved. You need to do this fuzzy match. Hopefully it will get you 80% where you need to be. And after that, you need to do some fixing with this mapping table, which would be the best approach to make this work if you want this to be 100% accurate. And finally, because I already did pick the ticker, it's just going to show up here. So that was actually the column I was trying to pull. And if you wanted multiple columns, you could have just selected multiple columns from that second table, and it would just work fine. And that should do it for this video. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.